Probably do Zoom every week, right?
It's good to see you. It's been a while.
I know. You're so busy. You're probably busier than I am, and I'm pretty busy, right?
I do manage to keep my schedule pretty packed.
Yeah, I mean, that's who you are, right? Clearly. I mean, any artist that says, I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to run my own business and I'm going to do technology and I'm going to do books, print books, and I'm
Yes.
going to do a painting every week.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Did I hit it
And then
all?
we brought framing in house and box making in house. So we have two CNC machines. We make all our own custom boxes to ship artwork in.
And so we'll just let people know who we're talking to. Erin Hanson. Erin is this remarkable artist who also is a remarkable business person. And we're here to talk, just to update. We had a great conversation, I don't know what, a couple years ago, maybe
Gosh,
on
yeah,
our
it's been a while.
podcast. Yeah, a couple years ago. And so today we wanted to talk, kind of get a update what's going on with your world, as well as 3D printing, which you've kind of taken off and made that part a very important part of your business, just so we can talk
Yep.
to people about that so they can understand what that is and the potential for that, maybe for their own business or their own world and that kind of thing. So, but let's go back to the box making. So, so you've brought into the business and you're in Oregon, right?
Yep. I moved up to McMinnville, Oregon, which is this cute little town in the middle of Oregon's wine country.
That's good. Do you get a lot of people coming in through the gallery there, or is it almost
A
mainly
pretty fair amount, like maybe like I don't know, 100 people a week or something. But it's all people who know me, and they come just to see my work because I'm kind of off the beaten track a little bit. You have to know who Erin Hanson is to kind of find me.
well, that's true, other than not on Instagram, because you have what, quarter of a million followers or so or more?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
300,000 maybe.
Yeah, which I'd like to talk to you about that too. How the hell do you get that many followers? It's pretty impressive. Very impressive. Not pretty, it's very impressive. So they have to go to Minville, Oregon to see you. And you have how big is your gallery there? Just the gallery part, because I know you've got the box, the frame, and the printing company.
Exactly. The actual showroom is a pretty small part. It's maybe like 1,000 square feet, but the whole facility is 18,000 square feet.
Wow.
It's the length of a football field.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
18.
we get our steps in, but it's arranged so
I get our
it's kind of arranged in a linear fashion. So people enter in through one side of the building and see the art, and that's where we have reception and sales and our
right,
books and our kind of entry level sales and artwork. And then
right.
it moves to my studio where we have the drying racks, and that's where the paintings are scanned right after I finish them. And then it moves down to the next part of the building where the printing is done. And then the next part of the building is the framing. And then the final part of the building is where the two CNC machines are, where we make our own boxes, and that's where FedEx comes. So it's a really kind of a long, narrow
Yeah.
building.
You're Henry Ford, basically, is what you're doing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's like a production line.
That's pretty interesting. And do
Yeah,
you let people, clients that come in, can they go see the operation? Is that something?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Going on the tour here is it's definitely a it's not your usual gallery experience. I'll just say that.
Okay,
You
tell me
know,
why.
well, most people go into a gallery and they expect to see beautifully framed art lit
Right.
on the walls and talk to, a very polite, nicely dressed salesperson and, talk about their art needs. Here you get to see
Which
not
they
only
can,
a
which they
working
can still,
studio,
but they can still do that. They
they
can
can
still
still
come in,
do that.
have that
Exactly.
whole experience,
Exactly.
right? Okay.
They can see that and they can go behind the scenes and
Right.
see the magic that put all that framing and lighting up on the gallery wall. And
Yeah.
it's just very unusual. I mean, even if you go and you visit an artist studio, you're not seeing a full
Mm-mm.
on frame shop. You
No.
know what I mean? A 3D scanner that takes up an entire room. And then likewise, the printer, which also is 10 feet long and takes up an entire dedicated room. It's just, it's, it's just a very different experience. And people are often pretty surprised and shocked, even if they know who I am. They're just like, "Wow, I had no idea the extent of your operations up here."
Right. Well, I don't know of another artist that's doing something like that, like that. Now, Mark Maggiore does printing. He
Hmm.
has a printer. He works with LA.
Hmm.
and he does print releases. I don't know how often, but it seems to be exceptionally successful. You must probably see that or know of it or maybe even follow it. Do you follow any things like that or not really?
No, when I was living in Southern California, we would outsource all our printing through a company called Marco Fine Arts, and they would do printing and drop shipping for a lot of big companies like Fine Art America,
Right,
now known as Pixels, and a lot of individual artists like myself. And
right.
it was really nice because they would take on all the printing. We would just send them a digital file of the artwork. They would print it. They would even do embellished printing if you wanted.
What does that
They had a
mean? What
machine
is it? What
that
does a
would,
balance printing mean?
oh, an embellished print.
Oh, embellished. I got it. So
Yeah,
the highlights of where the strokes are and that kind of stuff.
exactly. Yeah, they
Okay.
actually have someone in there in house who will either apply real paint
Right,
or clear acrylic gesso right over the top of your print to make it more special.
right.
And they even had this a machine that would hold a pen, hold an actual gold pen, and it would replicate the signature of an artist.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
pretty interesting.
Is that business still around?
I mean, I haven't dealt with them since I moved to Oregon 4 years ago, but I assume they are. I don't know.
That's about when you got the printer, right? I mean, I
Yep.
remember when you got this because you had, I think, at the gallery at the time in Scottsdale, and
Yep.
I remember.
Yep. And I was based out of San Diego, where I think my gallery was like 9,000 square feet or something. It just wasn't big enough to have a print center right
Yeah,
there. But
yeah,
it's kind of every artist's dream because I think all artists are kind of like overly particular on the quality of their print,
I'm
and if
sure.
it turns out slightly too yellow or not as saturated or too saturated or the gloss is off or there's just a million ways to mess up a print in an
Right,
artist's mind.
right.
And it's kind of every artist's dream to bring that in-house and be able to control every single aspect of the production.
Mm. Yeah, and
It's
have no
pretty amazing.
doubt that you do that. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to be somewhat of a, well, I don't know about perfectionist because I think to do what you do, you can't really be a perfectionist. You have to be so overall global that you can't get buried into the little things, I would think. You have to delegate. I would assume you're probably very good at delegating.
I've had to learn how. I feel like I am a perfectionist like a lot of artists, but I've it was really hard for me to start hiring people to work for me
Yeah,
because I think like most artists would feel this way that you do it best yourself, and it's
yeah,
really hard to let someone else do it. But I've had to learn the business side of art slowly and painfully over the last 15 years and how do you balance out constant correction
right.
with acknowledging the good parts of someone's work and um, but also holding to a high standard. And I found that what's been really helpful to me is having like hat write-ups, even like videos, like this is how you stretch a canvas in an
Yeah,
actual video that an employee can walk in and watch this video and learn how to
right.
stretch a canvas the way we want to. And then they go through this period where they're everything that they make is kind of goes through like a qualification check,
Mm,
and they have to get it approved until they can show consistently that they can fold in the corners of of a canvas print correctly or whatever it is, or make a box that's actually square and all these different things. And then once that they've demonstrated they can do that, then they're kind of set free and we kind of take our eyes off them. But
and do
I also
you?
I have three executives who run different parts of my business for me. So I have one person who's over the production, who like gets me a canvas if I need it, who makes sure all the paintings get delivered on time, make sure all the prints are good quality, that the frames aren't dusty going out. And then someone else who's over sales and business. And then I have another executive who just runs my marketing.
And
And
that's
then, yeah, and then they have juniors. So it's kind of like a tiered,
pyramid.
like a
Yeah,
pyramid system,
yeah.
right? So I don't have to personally deal with everyone who works for me. You know what I mean? And that helps, I think,
Yeah, well,
with my.
that's being a, see, that's why I said you can't be, you can be a perfectionist, but you can't be because you're going to run a business
I
like
can.
this. You
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
learn how to delegate. You
Yeah,
have to, I mean, you just can't grow if you don't do that. Now,
exactly.
how
Yeah.
many employees do you have kind of at any given time?
Um, Between like 10 and 15.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, that's a significant business, you know.
Yeah.
I know because that's kind of mine is that at that kind of 15 mark. And
Yeah, it's a
they
lot. Yeah.
they say businesses do pretty easily until they get to it's kind of the same till about 50, and then things
Yeah.
completely change,
I
and it's a
can't even
whole
imagine.
different.
That
Yeah,
would
I
be a
mean,
nightmare, I
very
feel
few
like.
in our profession, very few people would get to that place. But let's say somebody like Uline, who
Yeah.
does boxes for everybody and all these
Yeah.
things, I'm sure they have, I have no idea, but I'm thousands upon thousands of, people. And they're still in our business, but that
Yeah.
it's a different world
Yeah.
at 10 or 15. But 10 or 15 still is a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of mouths to feed every
It
month.
is. It's a big responsibility, and
Huge.
that confidence that I can keep my income level up week to week.
Yeah,
Most artists don't think on a week to week basis. They think of a quarterly basis or even an annual basis. What did I
right.
make this year? I have to every week I have payroll, and
Yeah.
I have this giant complex that I have to keep alive.
Yeah. Well, you have two different hats. That's the interesting
I
thing.
do.
You have an
Yeah.
artist hat that says, I need to do a
Yep.
painting a week and I need to be
Yep.
creative and I want to do it because that's who I am. Then you have
Yep.
this other
Exactly.
hat that's, I've got a business that has workman's comp and all these different things,
Yeah.
employees that run, I mean, and it's completely different. And the key, I would think, for you is trying to find that time that basically the business doesn't overrun the creative part. Am I right on that?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would think.
You're absolutely right, Mark. And it's I've come up with some successful ways of doing this over the years and some not so successful ways. And one thing is to physically remove my studio from the main production lines.
Makes sense.
So you have to kind of go out of your way to get to my studio. You can kind of see it behind me. It's this big open space,
Yeah.
but it's not on the direct line of production. And I'm on the tour, right? So people come in, but they know that they can only stay for about 5 minutes and then they have to leave, right?
Yeah.
And that's it's the job of whoever's doing the tour to bring them in, say hello, see what I'm painting, and then they
Yeah.
escort them out, right? And
That's
that and
time
that helps a lot.
management.
And I also
That's
it
that's
is
because you're
time
very
management is really important. I try to be painting by after lunch every day, and I paint until 6 o'clock every day. And
yeah.
so that's 6 hours a day of painting. And yes, it is interrupted sometimes. Like right now, we're loading up the van for La Quinta, and I'm training a new employee to to help me do shows, and
Right.
and so yeah, I'm very involved and be very involved today, but that's okay. I finished a little painting this morning, just really quickly, and then I'm hoping to maybe squeeze in a few hours of painting this afternoon.
Yeah, let's talk about La Quinta because that's coming up. That is one of the shows you do yearly.
Yep.
Because you probably don't have time to get out and other than in your studio to go out to these shows and do them.
Yep.
So there's only so many opportunities people can actually go out and meet you and see you,
Yeah.
and one of them. So tell me about that show where we're
Well,
here.
it's pretty much the last outdoor art festival that I still do.
Yeah,
It's twice a year. It's in November and March, so it's next weekend in La Quinta, and then it's like the first week in March.
in
And
California, right?
it's in California. It's near Palm Springs, and I've been doing shows in the Palm Springs area for almost 20 years. I
Hmm.
mean, it's one of the first. It's how I got myself off the ground as a beginning artist and was able to start supporting myself as an artist. Was just doing. I used to go to La Quinta about 12 or to Palm Springs 12 times a year, just to that one area doing shows there. And I would travel all over the place, Arizona and up and down the California coast, and
Right.
even like Utah and Washington and even in Oregon and Texas even. So I was doing up to 20 shows a year, just traveling around doing shows. But that's how I pulled myself up on my bootstraps.
Right.
I didn't need anyone's approval, or I didn't need to go through any art critics or museums or
Or gallery.
galleries
Yeah.
or galleries. Yeah, I did have to get approval from the show promoters, but there's entry level shows, and you start out with entry level shows,
Right.
and then you really just are looking for collectors, people
Right.
who resonate with what I was painting, and once you find those people, they're my collectors, and then that's how I kind of started my own business. Is I started making that direct communication line with my collectors directly, and then keeping that going year after year after year after year.
And the La Quinta, how long is that? How
It's a 4 day show,
yeah.
and of course, because I do everything big, it takes me 2 full days to set up because I set up 6 tents instead of the usual 1 or 2 tents that artists do.
Oh, wow.
And
6.
it takes a team of 3 people to set up 2 long days of setup. And we do giant tall walls, and we can hang 50 paintings. I'm bringing 50 pieces down to
Wow.
La Quinta.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
you'll have the originals, you'll
Hmm.
have the 3D,
Yep.
you'll have the prints,
Yep.
right? And
Exactly.
your books as well.
Yep. Books, calendars. We're
Yeah.
even we're doing holiday greeting cards for the first time this year, so
Oh,
we'll
wow.
bring some
Well, you
down.
have the printing ability, so why not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
the calendars look really cute. Those are cool. And you do them like from September, right, through
Yep.
they're like how long? 14 months or something?
Yeah. There's like a 4 month kind of mini calendar on the first page that gets
Yeah.
you through the end of the current
Yeah.
year, and then you can like start on in
And
January for
those
the
and
full
those can
page.
be just bought directly from erinhanson.com.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And then your Instagram is also Erin Hanson,
I think it's Erin Hanson artist, if I'm
artist. I
not
don't
mistaken.
remember. I just
But yeah, if you search Erin Hanson, then I come
Yeah,
up.
let's
Yeah.
talk about that just a minute so we're there because to have so many followers, that just doesn't happen
Yeah.
overnight. How did you manage to get that? Or do you even know? I mean, you have a
Well,
social media and marketing person, so that
yeah,
helps.
it definitely helps. So Amy, who's actually my sister-in-law, so she runs my marketing. And when I first started out realizing, hey, I can actually make a living, have art be my 9 to 5 job. The first thing I realized is I should probably get into social media. And so that's when I started working with Amy. And we started our Instagram and Facebook page then. I think we did Pinterest pretty soon after that too. I think Pinterest was later, but yeah, it's it's all organic growth. We have never paid to get followers or anything. We figure out what engages people, which is really easy. It's just pictures of my paintings.
Yeah.
So we just post pictures of my paintings, and luckily I'm very prolific. So I do at least a painting a week. So there's always new content to post up, and we have a new guy who's working in marketing right now, and he's really into doing videos. So he's been uh, taking videos of me painting, and that's kind of something fun that we're going to do more and more of
Right.
now that he's getting grooved in. But yeah, people just
And
like seeing paintings that I painted. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think also if you showed people about the printing process, the framing process, which you may be already doing. I know I saw one
Yeah,
I
it's
did watch the one on the printing process, which I
oh
thought
cool.
I thought was very interesting actually just to watch it happen. But I could see how people would find those extremely interesting to do.
Yeah, it's our biggest challenge right now is really showing people what a 3D textured replica is,
Yeah.
because it's kind of hard to believe because no one has seen one before. No other artist is doing this. And
Is anyone doing it like big companies or anything? I would think they must.
yes, there is. Restoration Hardware has a line of textured prints. They use a different scanner, but they are using the same printer that I have. So they're using a Metis scanner. I use a Cruise scanner. And those are the only 2 scanners that I know of that will capture a very high resolution 3D model of a painting.
Mm,
And that's not what they were designed to do. These are designed to be for like museums capturing like archival information of like masks or maps or different things like that have texture on them. And they're also used in the home goods industry of capturing like stone texture or wood texture that you would then print
hmm
like fake stone tiles or whatever, right?
hmm
So the
Anything
scanner
that
can
any,
capture.
anything you could put on a canvas, right? That you could put against. So in other words, you could print whatever, a mask, and it would have all the details, but it's going to be on a one-dimensional piece of canvas, right? So it's not going to pop up like a 3D, maybe I'm wrong, like a 3D, because they can do 3D modeling of everything, of phones, guns, whatever, right? But this is a little different, right?
Yeah, so this it's kind of 2 pieces of technology. There's the scanning,
Right.
which is getting that 3D model.
Photography. Yeah.
It's basically photography,
Yeah.
exactly. The camera moves across the top of the painting. When the painting is wet, I put it down face up on this huge bed, and the lights and the camera move above the painting side by
Right.
side.
Right.
side to side, and they take a 1 pixel wide photograph of this piece, and they control the lighting so the light casts shadows off to the side, and then the computer is measuring the length of the shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and then by extrapolation and trigonometry, it can extrapolate the height of the paint or the height of the canvas bumps, and it creates a full 3D model of the painting. So that's one technology.
Right. First, you
Then
get the
there's the
image,
whole
right?
concept of 3D printing, which is when, yes, you have a sample of what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you get and for those who are watching on YouTube, you can actually see what this looks like. Now, I can tell you as a gallerist with 32 years of experience and have done a lot of looking at a lot of pieces, it's pretty damn good. I mean, if I saw that from even this distance, I don't know if I could tell it's not original without really doing some looking at it closely. So it clearly
Exactly.
captures it. Yes.
Yeah.
And
At the
that,
gallery, we tap the pieces, tap, tap. And if it makes a sound like that,
right,
then we know it's a print. And if it
right.
makes a bouncy sound like a canvas,
Yeah,
then we know that it's an
right.
original.
So you take this camera with this
Mhm.
computer aided, takes these amazing high res images with lights and scans it on a fresh painting you've just painted. Now you take that and you bring it over to the printer, which is the size of a room, the printer is.
Yeah. It's basically a giant flatbed printer.
Okay.
So I think this is kind of, I think, what confuses people sometimes. When you talk about 3D printing, everyone has seen those little like articulated lizards and dragons, or like a 3D printed cup. All these, like, there's all these 3D printed things that people
Correct.
have
Right.
seen. Like you've seen
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're made of like brightly colored plastic, and you can see the layers in the model. You can actually see
Yeah.
the striations. So that's done with a tube of, like, a coil of plastic. Um, it looks like thick plastic string, and it's fed through a machine that melts the plastic
Right.
and heats it up, and it puts it into the shape that the computer is telling it to, and it builds it up. And they're very tall. You can make them whatever size you want, right? They're
Right.
usually
Make a
this
house.
clear glass. Exactly. And and then you can 3D print houses out of concrete. So that's what people think of when they think of 3D printing. That's not what I'm doing in my
Right.
studio.
No, I
I'm
get it.
using a UV printer, a flatbed printer. So this is the same technology that makes giant signs, like raised lettering, super high resolution, high gloss, um, like weatherproof printed signs
Hmm.
is the main application of this printer. And then in Switzerland, this company called Swiss Q, they developed a printer that's so precise, and it raises the ink heads up a fraction of a millimeter at a time after each layer, and it has a built-in UV light, so it's hardening and curing that
Hmm.
ink as it's going on. Zoom,
Right.
zoom, zoom. It goes past. It cures the ink as it's laying it down. That, because the ink is hard when it's cured, they can then print another layer right on top of that first layer of ink. Then it can print another layer of ink right on
Right.
top of that layer, and again and again and again. We go 20 layers of ink high.
Yeah. For your
That
process, right?
with my process,
Yeah.
and that's very different than using a coil of plastic, a coil of colored plastic,
Right.
right? It's a
Yeah.
totally different process. It's essentially an inkjet printer, but because of the ink that it's using, it cures it hard like plastic. It's similar in composition to like acrylic paint as
Yeah.
opposed to oil paint.
Yes. And
Yeah.
because I mean, I know your paintings, I handle your paintings, I own some of your
Mhm.
paintings. And
Mhm.
when I look at this, I go, yep, that's an Erin Hanson painting. I mean,
Yep.
those are your colors. That's what it looks like. This is the other one. This is the canvas print, right? So,
Yeah. So this is what originally led me to buy this printer in the first place. I didn't even know 3D printing existed because no one had done it before, right? And I was just trying to get really, really good canvas prints of
right,
my work that
right.
had excellent shadows, that was with the light was coming in from the side. Because as you know, I'm sure you've photographed a lot of art. You can't have the light shining directly at the art. like a scanner bed, unless you're doing pencil sketches like you have behind you. Those are fantastic on a scanner.
And then when you do these, so this is really what we used to call, or maybe we still call it clay or an archival ink print or something to that effect, depending on how you
Exactly.
want to call it, right? And so
Yep.
these, when you sell these, they're a lot less than something like this, which is the 3D, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. So
Yep.
again, go to YouTube and you can see I'm pointing pictures of these images. So then you take, so you've made the photograph. How long does it take to do the photograph, by the way, time-wise?
It depends on the size of the piece.
Yeah, 40,
um,
50.
yeah. So like a little petite takes like an hour. Excuse me. And big pieces that we have to scan in multiple ways and stitch them together will take all day to get an image.
Wow. That's
On
a
average, I'd say a couple hours.
wow. And there's a technician that just does that, or a couple technicians. Yeah.
Yes, there are two people who know how to do this in my gallery. It's mainly done by Margaret, who runs my production
Right.
line.
And for those who haven't listened to your old podcast, which again I recommend do it, you also your original degree was in biochemistry, was it?
Um,
Bioengineering?
bioengineering. Yeah.
Bioengineering, yeah, sorry. Mine would have been biochemistry. Bioengineering. So that comes in handy, surprisingly, to have that concept, the way you use your mind and things when you do something like that. So that I think that gives you a great advantage to be able to pull something like this off because you can look at it in those mechanical terms. Am I wrong or am I right?
You're absolutely right. Yep. I've always loved math and calculus. My dad was a calculus teacher. My
Oh,
mom was
there
a
you go.
grammatiician. Like I don't know. I've always been like a very, I guess, scientific thinker.
Yeah,
And when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up to be a scientist and an artist.
you
And
are.
I got told enough times, like all us young artists, it was too hard to make a living as an artist. Go do something sensible
Right,
with your life. So I got my degree in bioengineering. Decided I didn't want to sit in a lab all day long like my
right,
professors, and didn't really know what to do when I graduated. And yeah, I mean, I started my own business that supported me for a few years, and then decided, what do I really want to be doing for my living is painting. And I didn't think I could make a living as a painter, so I just did a painting a week for a whole year, and then through some random concatenation of events, heard about art festivals. I went and
yeah,
did my first art festival when I was living in Las Vegas, and sold 6 paintings for $500 a piece. And I was just over the moon. I was like, I just made back every dollar I spent putting this show together and then some. I
yeah,
can do this. And I met 300 other artists there who
yeah,
were all full time professional artists
yeah,
making their living at art festivals. And I would go to each one and say, oh, you're an artist. Like, did you go to art school? Nope, didn't go to art school. Oh, do you make a living doing this? Yeah, this is what I do full time. I support my family, and I'm a
right,
9 to 5 artist. And I was just like, it was so like eye opening to me. And I'm probably 25 years old or something. And
right,
I didn't look back. I just, from that day, I decided I can do this. If they can do it, I can do it. And I've
right.
been doing it ever since.
Yeah, but you also work at your craft every day. I mean, I'm painting every week, regardless, 6 hours every
Yeah,
day in your thing for what,
definitely.
16, 18 years or something maybe now?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, about 16 years. And
Yeah.
obviously art is where the passion originates.
Yeah,
And
it
for
still does,
me,
I think, probably.
the passion for art is really my love for the outdoors.
Yeah.
And,
You were a rock climber, maybe still are a rock climber.
rock climber, backpacker, hiker, just lover of nature and
Right.
color. And I think landscapes are the most beautiful thing that I can paint. They make me the happiest. They make other people happy. And it's just it's fun for me. It's a challenge and it takes a lot of hard work and discipline, but it's what I love to do. And the fact that I can make a living doing it and
Yeah.
support 10 other people's
Mhm.
families, not my
Yeah.
own family, it's
That's the
pretty
best.
incredible. I
And
never would have thought that I would be able to do this when I was 25 years old. Trust
oh, I
me.
bet. Especially the supporting 10 other or more
Yeah,
family.
no, that was like,
That's the hard part. Yeah, I
yeah,
get that part. That's actually one of the great parts about having a gallery for me is I do get to be involved with all these other individuals' families and make a difference for them and artists. So I have the employees and then I have all the artists that, depend on me as well, who can't do the Erin Hanson method of taking over the world.
it really is not for everyone. I've tried
Very
inspiring
few.
a lot of
Very,
artists.
yeah.
It's hard. Most artists, they just want a gallery to take care of the
Yeah,
art.
I get it.
you know.
because it's a lot to
And
ask to do both things and to
it
have
is.
expertise in both areas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a few, Billy Matthews is one that can do it. There's some of these individuals that have managed to understand and figure it out, or, and I don't even know if it's figuring out and understanding. It's a lot of it is just, do I want to take the time, energy, and effort to try to become
Yeah.
that other person as well? And will
Yeah.
it take away
Yeah,
from, my
exactly.
art? So,
I mean, even when I was just doing art festivals, I counted up the hours one time, and I was spending 4 hours on the business of being an artist to every hour I was spending painting. And that
yeah,
was just me alone doing art festivals. But this is like shipping paintings,
yeah, all
sending out
that.
thank you books, writing thank you letters, like sending emails, all the communication, just
Right.
all the administration that goes along with having any kind of business. 4 hours to 1 hour on actual production of actual painting.
Yeah.
And even now, I have a little bit more. Maybe I do 2 to 1 ratio now, but I also have 10 people who work for me and I still have a 2 to 1 ratio, you
Right.
know?
Well, there's just things that come up every
Yeah.
day, multiple times a day. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. It's like me writing books. I can't write them during the day generally, even though I want to desperately.
Yeah.
But, but I set up every day when I get home at a certain time, I'm going to write 500 to 1500 words every day,
Great.
whether I feel good or down or creative or not. It's like, okay, let me go and let's see what I can do. And that's what it takes. The only difference is I don't really make any money on my writing. I think I haven't figured out that part yet of how I actually make money at other than, just doing what I love. But so let me
Yeah.
get back to the 3D print. So it could take an hour or longer to just do one scan, basically.
Right.
And then it
Hmm.
could take up to a day to do the 3D printing process. And you have two technicians that run that are probably very specialized and
Yeah.
did they know about this when you hired them, or you were able to teach them?
No, we had to learn it. Well, my main guy who's been doing it, he had to learn it. I mean, I had already I pretty much had a working process because I had moved from San Diego and we actually had our scanner in San Diego. So and it was making pretty good prints.
Yeah,
And then we moved to Oregon and we got our own printer.
yeah,
See, we were outsourcing the printer and the printing when we lived in San Diego. But now
right,
that we have all this space here in Oregon, we have the scanning and the printing in house.
right,
And yeah, it's been, I mean, we're always refining it and perfecting it. Like Cruise sold me their latest, greatest scanner, and Swiss Cube managed to convince me that I should buy their better printer that printed twice as fast as their last printer. Anyway, so having two new pieces of equipment took about a full year of like figuring out how to get them to work the way the old
right.
ones worked.
These are
It's a
not
very
in,
touchy, like there's so many variables
I'm sure.
in the scanning and the printing that have to be just right to
Yeah,
have it actually look like a painting.
yeah, sure. Well, that's again where it helps to have the biomechanical
Yeah,
background and that
yeah,
kind of thing, because a lot of people couldn't figure out, me included. And that's true. And so these machines are also have to be quite expensive, right?
yes, yes.
You care to give a
Well, and
range of what
I mean,
something would
honestly,
cost?
I wouldn't have been able to afford them, but when the COVID EIDL loans came out, I qualified for one in my business, and I took every dollar of that and I bought my first scanner.
Hmm,
So that was when we lived in San Diego. And then since then, I've finagled my way into getting these other pieces of equipment. And yeah, they're about $500,000 combined.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, they're heavy pieces. I mean, the scanner alone, it weighs 6,000 pounds.
Wow.
It took three technicians from Germany a full week to get it off the truck and working in the gallery.
Wow.
They had to bring it in pieces, and it was
Wow.
this. It's massive. I mean,
Yeah.
it can scan a 9.5 by 13-foot painting, which is what we scanned
Wow.
on it recently.
You did do one that was 9.5 by 13? That was
Yeah.
one.
Oh no, sorry. That was my Field of Balloons paste. No, um it was 8 feet by 10 feet, which is still very big. Yeah, but we had to do it
Yeah.
in two sections. Like we had to flip it around and balance it on chairs so
And
that
that,
it was exact right
and
height.
so when you do something like that, was that a special order kind of thing?
Yes, that was a commission painting. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And yeah, and those are each kind of I looked at your price structure that you had in your thing, and those are negotiated kind of type deals for a 3D printing, right? Yeah, because that's
Yeah, I mean, so we can print very large for the 3D prints. The size of the prints is um, restricted by the size of the die bond that we can get, which is this. It's a piece of hard aluminum.
right.
It's two pieces of aluminum sandwiched around a piece of foam
Hmm.
core. So it's very strong but very lightweight, and that's what we print on. Um, and and we can only get them. I think they're 10 feet wide by like 8 feet tall. So we
Hmm.
can't print larger than that because we just can't. We don't have
Right.
a substrate big enough, and we already have the biggest dye bond that you can buy in America.
And that's 10 by 8 feet,
Yeah,
basically. And so could you
yeah.
take a painting, let's say that was so it's 10 by 8 feet, 10 feet high by 8 feet wide. So let's
Hmm.
say, could you take a 8 inch by 10 inch painting and turn
Hmm.
it into a 8 feet by 10 foot painting? I mean,
So
3D print it?
we have tried that, blowing up a little piece very large. It doesn't work very well to blow up a piece because what ends up happening is the brushstrokes look really distorted,
Yeah,
and it looks like I painted it with a giant 2 foot wide
got
paintbrush.
it, got it.
However, we've also tried shrinking down a 10-foot painting
Yes,
to an only 2 foot, a tiny
yeah,
painting.
right,
In fact, we just did it recently, and it looks like I painted it with a tiny, tiny little brush, but it looks like a painting still. Like it actually
got it,
looks like a textured painting. Whereas going the other direction, it just distorts it too much.
right,
You know, I don't even like blowing up my canvas prints too much larger than the original because the brushstrokes look too big in my eyes, and it just
right.
makes the painting look kind of odd.
So you
Yeah.
try to make each one of these printed pieces, or even if it's do you call the ones that are on canvas, what do you call them? Do you call them giclées or do you call them
I call them canvas prints.
canvases? Okay, so let's use that
It's the same
terminology.
as a
Yeah.
giclée. Yeah.
So a canvas print, you try to make it the same size as whatever you painted, pretty
I
much.
mean, I think that they often look the best in the original size, but
Yeah.
we can shrink them down, and we do expand them up to I think 30% of
Okay.
the original
So there's a
size.
little leeway and it'll still
Yeah,
work.
exactly. But they always look great smaller. It's really funny. I mean, if you think of like on a computer screen, you're looking at paintings only 2 inches tall that are
Right.
actually
Right. Huge.
could be quite large,
Yeah.
and they look fine. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you make, so you, and how many of these can you do in, let's say, a week? Or maybe you work
How
five
many
days a
prints
week.
could
I
we
don't,
make?
yeah, I mean, let's just say a normal work week, because you probably don't
Yeah,
work. You
yeah.
probably work 7 days a week, but the other, in fact, I'm sure you work 7 days a week. I have no doubt of it because I know I do. But for the other people, how many, let's just say of the 3D printing can they do in a week?
Right. So they can, in a pinch, they could probably do 2 tables in a day, and we can do about 6 average size prints per table. So 18 times,
Oh yeah,
and they
six.
only,
Yeah, so
work.
12 times five, right? 60, about 60 pieces in a week if
Yeah.
everything's
And that's
humming.
assuming that we have enough people to
Right.
mount, and ship them, right?
Yes.
Because that's where
Yeah.
it tends to clog up the lines is
Hmm.
the mounting and the framing. There's Yeah, it's just it's very time consuming making them. We went through I think 6 different glues before we finally found one that would stay adhered to the wooden bases without popping off.
Hmm.
Like we were having this trouble where they would ship and they would arrive to their destination and the 3D print would have popped off of the wooden base just because of all the jostling that was happening during
And the
shipping.
wooden base is the base that it's pushed in like kind of like if it was on a canvas on a
Exactly.
board kind of thing. Yeah, got it.
Exactly. It allows us to frame them in a floater frame, which is the way my originals are framed. So
Yeah.
it makes them look like their original paintings.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so you get the paintings, you get the 3D prints, let's just say with
Mhm.
3D prints. Then it goes to the next station, which mounts them to
Mhm.
a panel of some
Yep.
type, very
Yep.
specific panel that's made out of aluminum, foam core, and aluminum, right?
Well, so we print directly onto that panel. So
Oh,
like
you
if you
do?
pick up the little sample that you have,
Yeah, I do. Okay, I
so
got it.
see how
Uh-huh.
the back of it is like shiny?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yep. So that is a piece of aluminum. You can probably see the foam core possibly if you look at the side of it. Yep.
Yes.
So it's printed white on the back. Yep. So that kind of gray, that's the foam core in the middle.
Got it.
And it has a piece of aluminum front and back. And that's a nice hard surface that the 3D print can sit on.
Got it.
We tested out printing on canvas because the manufacturers were like, "Oh yeah, you can totally print on canvas." But when we try to stretch the canvas, it would crack the 3D print along the
Mm,
edges. And then so we tried not curing the ink as much, which would make the ink not as hard, right, and not as brittle. But then they would smell because uncured ink is very stinky.
mm, yeah.
So we have to cure them enough so that there's no odor. Like there's no smell on that print, right? You can hold it
No,
right up to your nose, and yeah, there's no smell.
not really.
So that took many years of getting
Right.
that smell to go away because each layer has to be cured fully because that's what makes the ink so it's not like a raw ink anymore.
And
It's
there's
fully
20 layers, right?
20 layers. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so but these are very hard, right? I mean, extremely hard. So
Yep.
you could even make like furniture like a tabletop and use it, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to like put like hard stuff on top of them because it might dent them. But I don't know. We have tested them by throwing them on the ground repeatedly on the
Yeah.
concrete to try
I
to
mean, I could
break
even
them.
see these being like boards, you know, if you printed it.
But,
I don't know.
I've always wanted to create tiles of my work that could be
Oh yeah.
installed on the side of a building,
Yeah, I
you
would
know.
think it
And I
could
have
easily.
thought that this might be the technology that would let me do it, and it
Yeah,
would
I could
show
see that.
actual brushstroke texture.
Yeah, I could see that actually
Yeah,
being done that way because
yeah.
of the way it's done, and it seems very sturdy. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty durable, and it has a layer of UV protective varnish printed right on the top of that, so
mm,
that should keep it from fading. I mean, obviously, all art fades with enough sunlight,
right.
but
Could also make insane puzzles that would be difficult.
yeah, that could be cool.
I'm not sure you'd make your
Textured
money back,
puzzle.
but
Yeah,
they would have to be specialty puzzles for sure. But I
yeah,
could see that for sure. And when
yeah,
you do these, so let's just go through the process so I understand it for
yeah.
me and our listeners. So you finish the 3D, then it goes into the mounting
Hmm.
room. They
Yep.
mount, it's already on the aluminum, but they mount it onto what are they mounting? This board, but what is that?
It basically looks like stretcher boards
Yes, okay.
have the canvas on it, but they're straight. And then they paint the sides black so that
Hmm.
they don't catch the light. And then we use a like a rotary tool to
Yeah,
create additional texture on the back of the die bond because we found the reason why they were popping off was because it was such a smooth surface that
right.
the glue had nothing to grab onto.
I
So
see.
we basically gouge out the back of the die bond a little bit, like zzz, and
Yep.
make like a little pattern on the back, and then we use a flexible epoxy,
Hmm.
not a hard epoxy, because those were also breaking. The epoxy would break,
Hmm.
but we use a really nice flexible epoxy that adheres to wood and to this kind of textured dye bond, right? Because
Hmm.
we texture it, we like texturize it,
Right.
and then yes, and then they have to cure for a whole. I think it's either 12 or 24 hours. They have to. We keep them clamped together because we need
Right.
that epoxy to be very secure.
Right. And
And
then,
then from there, we make a frame. We have two miter saws in the gallery, and we have a really high tech frame joiner
right.
that joins all these things together. We actually have two joiners,
Right.
um, and yeah, then they just pop the 3D print mounted on its wood base into the floater frame, which of course you drill from underneath to attach
Mhm.
it to the underneath of the frame, so
Right.
that from the top you're just seeing the top face of the frame, and then the artwork, right? And then there's like a gap in
Right.
between
Yeah. As
the
a
print
floater.
and the frame, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Just
frame.
like you
Yeah,
do with your original frames or your original paintings. But,
exactly,
and then, so then,
exactly.
and then you have a box machine, right? That's making boxes and it can make
Yes,
any size box of you want.
yes. This is actually, I get the most excited about my box machines than any other part of my business because
Yeah.
I am sure you have dealt with this frustration like I have. it is okay. So Uline has their artwork shippers, right?
Right.
Which are very nice boxes, but they are very expensive.
They
An
are.
average box might be
They're really
250
good.
or
I'll say
300.
Uline is really good. We use them.
They
So,
are amazing. I would use them exclusively because they are the best at shipping artwork.
yeah,
They have an ABS plastic lining in them that prevents forklifts from
that's
going
right.
through their boxes. Yep.
Yeah, really
And they use
critical.
the foam. They're really nice, really to use. I used them for 10 years. But here's the frustration was they sometimes aren't the right size.
Yeah,
And so now you're paying the excess dimensional weight with UPS or FedEx
yeah, with the
way
shipping.
above and beyond the size of your artwork, right? Especially getting close to like the holidays and Black Friday, they start running out of their box sizes, right?
Right.
And start using more and more awkwardly sized boxes to ship the art. So that was one frustration. And then also yeah, anyway, so when I started making my own boxes, I got two CNC machines. One cuts cardboard exactly 6 inches wider than the dimensions of the painting.
Hmm.
And then the other CNC machine cuts ABS plastic, which is it is probably the most durable plastic on this planet. It's
Hmm.
completely shockproof. Nothing can penetrate it. And you need a machine to cut it with, right? So
Hmm.
we cut out these pieces of plastic and we insert them on the inside of the boxes, just like Uline does with their artwork shippers.
Right.
And then the magic piece of the puzzle is we use these giant black foam corners with the inside. We have these corners custom made for us by a factory, and they send us,
Hmm.
thousands of these at a time. And you pop out the center of the foam corner so that the frame fits exactly inside of it. And then you put the whole piece of artwork, which is wrapped in plastic, right? A plastic bag, with the four form corners fit exactly into the box.
Got it.
So there's no wiggle room, there's no additional padding needed, there's no packing material, there's no peanuts, there's no bubble wrap, nothing is pressing on the surface of the painting.
Hmm.
Because like that will damage artwork, right? Like
Yeah.
wrapping a painting in bubble wrap can make little circles on the artwork,
No, it's true.
and like likewise, even like peanuts can press into the art. It's better for the art to have nothing touching the surface of it. That's the safest way.
So
It's
you do
air.
have plastic that goes around it, I assume, right?
There is a piece of plastic around it just to
Right.
keep from dust, whatever, from touching it, and to keep the frame very clean. But there's about 4 inches of air above and below the artwork, so it's
Mm.
floating in this beautifully,
Yeah.
extremely strong box. Like the size of the box are like one, two. It's 8-ply cardboard on the side because we use 2-ply cardboard and there's 4 pieces of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's really cool. This machine that it prints the top of the box and the bottom of the box in like these shapes like this, like a puzzle piece, right? So you fold
Right.
the sides in, you fold the top in, and then we have a staple gun that staples them together. And I think we use a glue gun also to help
Hmm.
keep it all together. And then yeah, it takes them about 5 minutes to make a box, and they have the perfect box. That's the safest possible way to ship a piece of artwork, and we don't pay any extra money in shipping. And I offer free shipping on my website, so
Right.
I need to keep my shipping costs as reasonable as possible.
Right. Would it be worth your effort to try to get these boxes back to you so you can reuse them so you don't have to make more? Because if you just said, here's your FedEx label, sent ground, send it back to us and we'll take care of it.
With the Uline shippers, I used to want to do that because that's
I
like
have
a
done
$300 box right
that.
there, and
Right.
I'd like to get that back. But I haven't done it with these boxes. I think it's nice for the customer to have a way to store their artwork if they ever
Yeah.
need to in the future. They can
Right.
just put it in their garage, put the 4 corners and the plastic bag in the box, put in their garage. And if they ever need to move or anything, they have a very safe way to move
Yeah.
that specific
Yeah.
painting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a bonus for them to have a
yeah,
handmade box that exactly fits their painting.
exactly.
And do you do the same with your original art? Same process as far as the
Yes,
boxing?
it's
Yeah.
exactly the same. Yep.
Now you do one thing differently on your originals is you put the RF ID card into the painting, right?
I haven't started doing that yet. I have it actually sitting on my desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to start doing that. I need. Apparently there's a way now where iPhones, or Androids can scan an RFID chip. Which, if that's true, then because that was my one barrier to this, the RFID technology, was I thought you needed an RFID scanner to
Right.
scan the chip, which kind of defies the point a little bit because like a gallerist or a collector wouldn't be able to scan their painting and see, is this a real Erin Hanson painting? They'd have to take it to me in Oregon and have me scan it, which is kind of seems kind of
So
silly.
you can use blockchain technology to help in that, and that's how you would do it. Because
Yeah,
blockchain, it's a, it's an immutable code of, record of everything. And the reason you want to do this or thinking of doing it, I think you should do it,
yeah,
is especially with all the 3D pieces that are out there that look so much like an original. Now, granted, I can tell if I look at it and examine it, and obviously others that are experts can, but if it's framed nicely and put up, you might not know, even though each one of these pieces at the bottom, this wasn't doesn't have it, but I have one that does. It'll have a little number, right? It'll say like 1 of 50 and a
exactly.
little thing. And you do that. Do you do that after the process of printing? Is that when that signature is done?
Exactly. So I sign them in gold enamel when they come off the printer
Yes,
before they get based,
I see.
because otherwise the clamp is in the way
Yeah.
and I can't get to the corners. Yeah.
And how many, it varies, I assume, depending on the size maybe of the 3D printed piece, how many are in the edition? I know you have some that are open edition, but most of them are limited edition, right?
Yeah, we mostly sell the limited edition ones. We do an edition of 100 per
Hmm.
painting, and some were already well. I think we're up to like 70 in a few of these pieces that are very popular. So I might decide to start raising the price on those when we get down to the last, I don't
Right,
know, 10 or 20 pieces.
right,
I mean, we'll have to see. They're like the classic paintings, that I've done that we've
right.
managed to scan. Obviously, I don't have scans of all my work because I just got this scanner what
Sure.
5 or 6 years ago. And so everything painted before then, I don't have the ability to print 3D
Right,
models of them.
right.
Yeah,
So I have some of the original ones then. So
exactly. The one of a kind.
yeah, and the question is on that from a business point of view. So you have these beautiful prints that look basically for all purposes like you're painting. How does that, or does it, cannibalize into your original painting sales?
Yeah. This was a real concern that I had,
I'm
Mark,
sure.
before I even started doing this. I was really worried that it would scare away my original collectors or
Right,
like somehow devalue my originals. Honestly, it has not done that at all. It has, if anything, the opposite of that has happened. It's allowed more people to collect my work and get a product that is a better exchange value than a canvas print. Because a canvas or a paper print, it just doesn't capture the vivacity and the life of the texture of the original.
right,
And the original is original and they have their own life that is imbued in them by me personally, right? My spirit has
right,
imbued these with power and life, and they are one of a kind creations that were made by these hands.
right.
And those will always have a higher value.
Yeah, no, I'm
The,
sure.
the 3D prints, they are a replica. They were made by a machine. I do sign them by hand, but other than that, they're machine made, and so they don't have quite that same life. However, they are an amazing product, and so collectors have just loved them. And we've sold. It's helped me get um, my income into a new, more reliable level where I can
Right,
support all this
right,
employees and equipment and kind of have like a baseline income regardless of my original sales. We
right,
can kind of keep up a baseline print sale amount. And then I was thinking about later and I was like, like if you take the painting Starry Night by Van Gogh,
right.
like think about how many umbrellas, phone
Oh yeah,
cases,
no.
cup holders this image is on, right? And then take Starry Night and put that up for auction and compare it to the one of the farmers leaning against the haystack with the hats over the face, which is, I think, one of Van Gogh's best paintings, right?
Right,
I don't even know the name of that painting.
right.
And what do you think is going to go up for a higher value at auction? The one that everyone buys and has a million prints made of it
Yes.
and everyone has reality on it, or this other painting, which is just as good, if not better, but no one knows about it,
Yeah. I mean, I could see that if you get enough of them out there and your distribution is big enough that it becomes iconic, right? The
Right.
brand becomes iconic and you go,
Right.
okay, this is, this is obviously what this is. And I want to be part of that because it's like, I recognize, oh, I've seen this and here and there. The
Right.
key is being able to make it iconic so you can do that and hopefully keep the price structure of your paintings stable or continue to go up. And I know for a fact, because I've handled your paintings for quite a while now, that they have gone up in value. So quite a bit actually. But I was curious about that. Does it cannibalize into it? It sounds like it doesn't.
No, I think what we've seen is that original collectors, basically, if someone can afford the original, they want the original.
Yeah, I get it. I would.
And but
Right.
if they can't, then they're willing to compromise and get a 3D print. And we even have collectors that have some originals, some 3D prints. You
Yeah,
know,
well, I could see it if you had like maybe a vacation home or something where you
yeah,
literally don't want, because I would see this often in Tucson with Ed Mel's that they'd want to get a lithograph, which are nice and they're limited, one of 20, 250 or whatever,
mhm,
but they didn't want a hundred, whatever they could be now, be hundreds of $1,000 painting of a flower or something in their condo that they're there for 3 months of the year, but
yeah,
they do want something that has the same sensibility and has real. And those also have resale value. So let me talk about that. So what do you do? How do you handle resales on these kind of things? And have they come to the market? I mean, you sell enough, they're going to. They have to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen them on the secondary market yet. I mean, they have only been out for what, 5 years.
Yeah.
For my originals, since I have the largest, I guess, demand because I deal with all my collectors directly.
Right.
When someone wants to sell an original, they just bring it back to me
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
sell it for them.
That's
And
good
we
because
always get them more than what they paid for originally
yeah.
because, as you said, the prices have gone up.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have gone up. Yeah, and you don't see your paintings coming on the resale market,
Yeah.
which is interesting because I think people want them too, and they keep them, and they
Yeah.
have a different sensibility too. Your paintings are very different in the color and the design, and because I have them hanging in my gallery, and people like I see the reaction. So I like that. Well, that's a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, having 3D replicas is a great way to introduce people to my work too. They're like, I don't want to spend 20,
Right. Or
25
can't afford
on
to.
a
Right.
medium-sized painting. So, but however, for only 3 or 4K, I can get a gorgeous replica. Now they start learning more about me. They see they have this
Right.
beautiful piece in their home. They start falling in love with my work more. And then maybe then as the years pass, they then are willing to spend that kind of money on an original down the road. So it's been a great way. And we have had lots of people convert from 3D print collecting to original collecting.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I had
Yeah.
a poster of Ansel Adams, Moonrise over Hernandez in my dorm room and also in medical school. And then now I've got like a 3 by 5 original, you know, photograph that's in our museum now. So,
That's so
it can happen and it does.
cool.
Um, So, what about one of the things that I find interesting about this technology, but also from my point of view, as far as somebody who deals in old deceased work,
Hmm.
is when this technology gets out there for historic paintings and things like that,
Yep.
like Maynard Dixon, you know.
Yep. Yep.
And do you know of individuals that are doing any of these kind of things with historic paintings as reproductions? I would think China would be the most likely person to want to do this or has done it, maybe. I don't know. Have you found
Yeah.
that happening on your own piece through China stuff?
I mean, to get the 3D, they'd have to get their hands on an original and go through all the trial and error that I went through
Right.
to create the technology to do it, which I'm sure they're very capable of doing that, and they could do that. Um, actually, I before I even got my 3D printer, I had heard about a museum making a copy of a Van Gogh original that
Right.
was so good that it was fooling museum curators,
Yeah.
and they couldn't tell the difference between the original and the 3D print.
Yeah.
But I heard that it took them 4 years, and I later found out what the process was that they did. They actually just used a manually mounted camera, and I think they were doing 1 pixel wide slices. They were basically doing the same thing that my scanner
Right.
does, but manually. So picture,
Right.
picture,
Right.
picture, picture. over and over, creating the whole grid and having the same lighting all the time so they could
Right,
capture the light and the shadows. And then they were able to, I don't know if they used a Swiss Cube printer or a Canon. Those are the only printers I know that do this layered printing. But they somehow managed to do that. And I went to Van Gogh's, the asylum that he lived in.
right,
I went there this year, this spring, and I went and I saw his room, and they had a 3D print of one of his painting. It wasn't very good. It looked like it had been done with maybe 2 or 3 layers of ink,
right,
and they had all these flat tops on it, and you could kind
right,
of see where it almost looked like the texture had been sprayed on, maybe.
right,
But I was like, okay, this is interesting, and it was this old print too. It was like covered in dust and stuff. It had obviously been there for like 10 years.
right,
So I think that there has been some attempts at this technology, but definitely no one has made it broad scale
right.
yet. But I know that it's going to happen, and
Yeah.
there are companies that are scanning artists' work and printing it for them. So I thought about opening up my printers to other artists and doing that, and I honestly I couldn't find any other artists that could charge for a print what I was charging.
Right.
Like their the demand for their work wasn't as established as mine is. And I can't print them for less than what I'm charging.
That was my other question. I thought I was like, it seems like I mean, because you have this assembly line basically of
Yeah,
you know how to do everything.
right.
That why wouldn't you open it up to the right person or persons as long as you have enough employees and enough that you can get your own stuff out? And that maybe the answer is that alone is the rate limiting issue. Why?
It basically is. I mean, I keep these guys running full time. They're doing overtime, especially moving into the holidays with Black Friday coming up. I mean, we're going to have to get 4 times as many employees in there over these next 2 months just to keep up with the demand. And we have our holiday extravaganza coming up, which is the one time in the year when I am willing to sell my originals for basically any and all reasonable offers. And I started doing this when I moved from San Diego, and
Mhm.
I had over 100 paintings in stock, and we calculated what it was going to cost to move them to Oregon, and we would have had to rent an entire semi truck and have a driver and move
Right.
them up. And I was just like, you know what? I don't even care. I want these paintings in people's homes. I will take any offer that I can get for them. So we sent out this email. We will accept any and all offers on original paintings, and it's the first time I had discounted my originals, right? And we sold 80 paintings in 7 days.
Yeah. But they were reasonable. I think that's what
They
you,
were reasonable. I mean,
yeah.
but some were not very reasonable. Like,
Well, I'm
like
sure a lot of people
I
made
just wanted
unreasonable offers, but I
a lot of
imagine
yeah,
you
which
probably
is
didn't take the
honestly it was fine.
unreasonable one.
And it was also dependent on how the offer was presented, like if it was done with, batting their eyes and a puppy dog face,
Yeah.
and I just want my paintings to be in people's homes. I mean, that's why I'm such a terrible salesperson, because I will sell my art at any price. I really will, because I don't care about the money so much. I just want my art in people's homes,
Yeah.
because it's useless sitting here in a box. Like, that's not why I paint, to put my art in a box.
Yeah.
I want it out in people's homes, right?
Now that's why you have salespeople there to,
That's why I have salespeople, because they do care,
yeah. Well, you
they
do
do
because
care
you
about
want to,
getting the
you
price.
have to protect your price structure, right? That's one
Yeah,
of the things. Because
yeah,
your
exactly.
clients go, yeah, well, I paid 50 and they paid 20. We don't want that. So yeah,
Right,
you
exactly.
have to support that. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, don't talk to me about price. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's right. Just say, yeah, talk to the people that do that.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so I
So,
haven't been directly on my sales lines for a long time, except at La Quinta or shows like this, and people can talk to me directly. But
right.
usually I'm not even in the conversation. I don't even bring it up.
Well, that's the better way to be. I mean, that's one of the advantages of artists having galleries is
Yeah,
that's the gallery's responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. That
exactly.
you want to make
Exactly.
sure that, you're protecting not only the artist, but also the client too. Yeah.
And it's really valuable. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
very
a
much
good
so.
thing that galleries provide.
So anything else new or exciting we should discuss? I think I kind of understand the whole process of how it works and can understand why not many people could try to do it. I mean, unless they've got a 500,000 sitting around that they want to try to do it. I want to
Exactly.
got a
And
20,000 or 18,000 square foot, space. and they have 10 or 12 employees that they want to do.
Right. And 4 years of time to mess around with it till they get it right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a big, anytime you run an operation like that, when you do have a hiccup that happens, and invariably they do, whether it's a recession or, a pandemic, then you find out what you're made of. As
Yeah.
I'm sure you did when the pandemic hit.
Yeah, it was crazy. We were very worried, but my solution was let's double our marketing. And we actually ended up our graph went up during COVID. And I think part of that was because everyone was at home
Yeah,
staring at their ugly empty walls and the
right,
art that they didn't like.
right.
And really reaching out for beauty also and something that would make them feel good stuck in their
Yeah.
houses.
And you may have grown your Instagram at that point too.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was going
definitely.
to ask you about that. So you must get a lot of some kind of sales or people coming to visit you just because of the number of followers you have, I would assume, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. We ask everyone who buys anything from us, we ask, how did you first hear about Erin Hanson? And that lets us understand our marketing tools and where our bean investments are paying off. And I mean, but we don't spend any money on Instagram. We don't do paid ads. We don't do anything. But it's nice. But we do put time into it, with these
Yeah.
videos and different things. And so it's nice knowing what the ROI on that is. Um, but yeah, our biggest source of new buyers is word of mouth.
Hmm. Makes
Yeah,
sense. Well, that's
yeah,
social media is an important component. I
yeah,
I keep harping on this to my artists, that it's a really important way. And you don't have to do it every day. I mean, we do it every day, but you can do it if you can even do it just once a week of something,
yeah,
just to
yeah,
reach out to your clients, and because you want them to be invested in you as a person as well, I think.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm excited about these videos, and I'm trying to be just myself, talking to artists and fans, and it's fun. I'm going to be launching an artist mentorship program next year, and kind of I've been asked so many times, "Oh, teach me how to paint like you," or "Teach me
Right.
how to make a living as an artist." And I'm just going to put a whole set of videos and blogs together and make an artist program. And I don't know, charge like $20 a month or something.
Yeah.
If people
Yeah,
want to
I
sign
love
up
it.
for it. And
That would be
yeah, and it's
great.
just be a way that I can service these artists and, make it worth my while to do that as well.
Are you still climbing?
I haven't climbed since I had my baby. She's 5 now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That
I was gonna say that would be some pretty interesting videos if you showed, for your
would be
Instagram account.
cool.
Right,
That would be cool.
Or literally if you climb up this big hill and then you get out the top of the box, and do a plein air thing because you know how to do that as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But what do I know? You have way more followers than I do. I don't know. Well, unless there's anything else, people can find you at erinhanson.com. They can find you on your Instagram, Facebook sites. If they're in Oregon, they can come see you. If they're in La Quinta in November or March, they can
Yep.
meet you in the seven, 6 tenths, 6 tenths. How many tenths do you have? Six?
Oh, and my 6 tenths.
Yeah,
Yes,
6 tenths.
exactly.
I don't know if
Yeah.
this will get out by then. When is the show? When is the actual show? Do you remember
So
the?
it's next weekend, 14th through the 17th of
Yeah.
November.
So it may not come out by then, but definitely for March it will. Can come and do it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
you
And if
know,
and if and if you want to see a 3D textured replica for yourself, we are offering free samples right now on the website. So
yeah,
just go online or just shoot us an email, send me a free sample. We'll send you what Mark has here,
yeah,
that little piece, so you
yeah,
can touch it and feel it. Because we have a little motto. We say, "Feeling is believing."
yeah. That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and you also have a new book that came out, right? Your miniature thing. What's that?
Yes, my petite book. Yep.
Yep.
And we have Open Impressionism Volume 3 just got sent to the printer. So we should have that in about 3 months. And that's exciting because Open Impressionism Volume 2 ended off in 2016, which
Hmm.
is so long ago. And we've now run out of that. We've gone through three printings of those.
Hmm.
So we've sold or given out at least, I don't know, 5,000 copies of it. And
Yeah.
now we ran out again. So we're reordering Open Impressionism Volume 2, and we have the new book Open Impression Volume 3,
Yeah.
which I think goes through 2021 or 2022, and then we're still catching up. So
Yeah.
soon there'll be Open Impression Volume 4.
Yeah. Those are really beautiful books, and that's how I found out about you, actually. Because one of
Oh,
my
that's great.
yeah, one of my
Yeah,
clients bought one
I'll
in.
send you a copy of the new
Yeah,
one. It's the best book. It's
yeah,
our best book that we've made. Yeah, I'll
yeah.
send you a
That's how
copy.
I found you. I mean, a client literally brought it in and said, "Do you know who this person is?" I go, "No, let me see it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I did know who this person is. This was really good. Wow." And they did it themselves. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Well, in 2025, I'm going to bring the final piece of machinery into my building. I have a room for it and everything. I'm going to bring in my own printer, my own magazine printer, because I print these magazines every month. That's called
Yeah.
Color and Light, and
Yes.
they only go to my collectors,
Right.
and they show like my newest paintings, like what sold last month,
Right.
kind of like upcoming events, whatever.
Mhm.
And, I outsource this. And of course, as I always am, I'm extremely picky about color and paper quality. And, anyways, we're bringing this in house. So, in a few months, I'm going to be making my own magazines and my own promo and everything. So,
Yep.
very
Which means
excited.
you're going to have some other person do that too, right?
Yep, yep. We're actually we're hiring that person right now. We're in negotiation stages right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Yeah. I have never printed my own, but I did a magazine, Canyon Road Arts, for like 6 years, and then we do
Yeah.
Central West online every
Hmm.
week. We have a new edition that comes out, but it's online. I don't
Great. It's
envy
a
you
lot
at
of work.
all. Yeah, I do not envy you at all doing your own because
Yeah.
you have to write content too. I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
printing. You have to do the
Yeah. No,
content
it is.
and the
It's
printing and
it
distribution.
takes a chunk of
All
my time for sure.
yeah, a lot. Well,
Yeah.
that's why you're successful, my friend. Well,
But I've always liked the business side of this.
clearly.
It's fun for me. It's like a game,
Yeah, clearly.
And trust me, like not everything I've done has worked. I have failed many times, but
Oh, yeah.
I just try something else, read another book,
Right.
try a different way. And it's weird, like, who would have guessed that word of mouth would have been the biggest source of referrals? It's not Google, it's not Instagram, it's people talking about me to their friends. And so, how do I encourage more of that? I give excellent service. I make sure my paintings are top notch. We make fantastic 3D prints. We give tons of collateral like this to our
Yeah, the color
buyers,
and light. Hmm.
and that all encourages word of mouth. So that's something I can do to help create more of that, But we're always thinking of new ways,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like bringing it in and doing your own printing for your own magazine.
yeah,
I think that's the takeaway for a lot of people, artists that may be listening to this today, is that great service, word of mouth, those kind of things really is super important. I know for us, it's a lot of ours is also word of mouth.
yeah.
You build it over time, unfortunately.
You
I mean,
do. You do.
3,200 for
And
us.
really keeping your collectors, like those are your people,
Yeah, the
They're
culture. Hmm.
like, and you're going to sell to them again and again and again. And they're not going to go down the road to the other gallery. They're going to come to you because they know you and they like you.
Yeah, I think you could do a business class thing too. You're talking about how to teach artists how to paint. The reality is, I think also the art of business would be
Yep.
very successful because you're successful and you think about it and you do it from a very high standards. I mean, there's a lot to glean from how you successful you've been uh, from what you do, your story to other artists and what
Yeah.
they're doing. So I think that's something you should consider doing.
Yeah. I'm hoping to make it part of this artist program,
Yeah.
kind of a two-part thing. One, people just want to paint, and others, people who want to paint professionally.
Yeah. But if you're an artist, yeah, if you're an artist and want to paint professionally, you have to have a sense of the business world. Even if you don't plan to do anything on your own as far as sales, you need to understand things and how to get a gallery and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, it's true.
yeah. All
It's true.
right.
Oh,
Thank
cool.
you for taking your time. I know you're busy. That's and I look forward to getting my book, and
Great.
hopefully people will reach out and examine and understand and look at this process that you've done because yeah, nobody else is doing it.
Yeah.
All
Thanks for
right,
having me back. It's
all
always
right.
fun.
Yeah, well, let's not wait 2 years again to. I mean,
Okay, deal.
we talk periodically, I think, but not come down to Arizona and see us.
I would love to.
All
Yeah.
right, very good. All right, thank you.
Okay. Bye, Mark.
Bye.